Share this presentation, we're going to talk about peroneals and tibialis anterior. La da 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 da. Shouldn't be a lot. I'm trying to think if I've got a good picture here for you guys. Hold on. No, bear with me, everybody. Okay. So, this lecture today is called the peroneals and the tibialis anterior. And yet there's a slide in front of you that says the fibularis. The peroneals are the fibularis. So it's gone back and forth for a long time. They're both valid, by the way. People that really know their anatomy recognize both the names. But they run along the fibula. So a long time ago, when Tapscott studied anatomy, right after kind of the Garden of Eden, and we were just walking out of that, we used to call it the fibularis. And then peroneals became very popular, and we stopped calling it that. We called it the peroneals, and now it's kind of back to fibularis. I like fibularis, by the way, because they're on the fibula. So I like it when muscular names kind of match where they're at. Remember, the fibula is the lateral, tinier shin bone. It's not really a shin bone, right? Leg bone. Your shin bone is your tibia. Your tibia is medial, right? Your tibia is, not this one. Your tibia is medial. Your fibula is lateral. So these are lateral muscles. They are exactly lateral on the side of your leg. And they go, this is what's very interesting about them. They go down your leg and around your lateral malleolus. Now, what does your malleoluses act like? What did I say they act like? Your malleoluses. What do they act like? What do they do for you? I mean, they're adorable little ankles. I guess they help hold your socks up. But what else do they do for you?
Do you see any more?
Is that the one you said is the pulley?
It is the one I said is a pulley. Yeah. So the malleoluses act as little pulleys to change direction of force. So if you have a foot like this, right, and you put, hold on everybody. If you've got a foot like this and you have a muscle running down it and it just goes under the foot here and attaches, when it pulls, it would actually create a dorsiflexion because it would pull up. But the peroneals don't create a dorsiflexion because it goes around the malleolus, and when it pulls, it ends up pulling the foot down because of this pulley. It actually makes it go underneath the foot, and so when it pulls it down because of this pulley that's your malleolus over here. That's what malleoluses do. So that's why it plantar flexes. What other muscles plantar flex? Know this off the top of your head. Come on. You guys know some muscles.
Yeah, it's the calves, right?
Calves, sure. What are the three calf muscles, sir?
The plantaris, soleus, and the gastrocnemius.
Beautiful. Excellent. Those all plantar flex. I'm sorry, what's
I was going to say glute instead of the other one, sorry.
No, that's okay. You did great. So the three calf muscles plantar flex. This muscle actually can help in a plantar flexion. So when you're hiking along, it's no wonder that it gets sore. Do we know other muscles that can aid in a plantar flexion? It's not their job, but they could. They lie underneath the calf muscles.
The flexor digitorum longus, the flexor hallucis longus.
And tibialis
Posterior.
Tibialis posterior. Very good job. Thank you, ma'am. I really love that you guys try. You know what I mean? You don't have to know the whole thing. That was really good. So, so that's 6 muscles in back. These 2 muscles on the side, because the brevis and the longus essentially do the same thing, essentially. And so that's kind of cool. Yeah? So that's actually 8 muscles that aid in the plantar flexion. But what else is interesting is what this muscle does when it comes down around your leg. Because when it comes down on the side, it goes around the malleolus and it goes underneath and grabs onto the bottom of the foot, right? Grabs on to like metatarsal 1 and the medial cuneiform, like the stuff way over here. So if it pulls, if this thing pulls, it everts your foot. It everts your foot. When it pulls, yes, it can dorsiflex, but it can pull your foot out. Outside. Why the heck would I want to do that? Why would I want to evert? Anybody? Yes, Miss Bilotic.
I would like to answer this question.
Hold on, Miss Bilotic raised her hand. Sorry, hold on.
Okay,
Oh, you said your son wants to answer this question?
He does. He has to do this in soccer, so if you would like to answer.
Please answer. I want to hear your answer.
I want to flex.
What now?
Or to stretch. I want to stretch.
Absolutely, actually, he's right. So sure, we definitely move it to stretch. In fact, we'll find out it stretches, should stretch your tibialis anterior. Yeah, good answer. Miss Bilotic, did you have something too? Sorry.
It's okay. I was just gonna make a guess, like, when you're hiking per se, and you're going up rocks, and your like foot everts. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Miss Bilotic, I'm making this face because you're right. Because long before we were here and everything was paved, and the classroom was completely flat, and the sidewalks were completely flat, and everything was flat, you used to have to do this a little bit. We don't evert incredibly, but you can't walk on uneven ground without everting and inverting. Right now, I'm using everting and inverting muscles right now so that I don't fall over to one side. They're balancing me, right? So you use these are balancing muscles. Your peroneals are balancing muscles, which is why the side of your shins get tired after you've been walking, especially on the uneven ground. Because you often have to evert. You often have to evert. Now, if you have to evert, you should also have to invert. Right? And the tibialis anterior lets you do that. Now here's what's weird. Here's what's weird, everybody. Let's tape up this foot. All right, look up here. This is going to be the peroneus or the fibularis longus and brevis. I'm putting them together because they're right on top of each other. It goes around here and comes under here and attaches down here. So, it goes around the ankle, comes down here, attaches to here. And because it goes around the ankle, when it pulls, it can do a plantar flexion. Also, because it goes underneath the foot, it can cause the foot to evert. Comes under to here. This part's important. Let's see if we got enough tape left. Yes, we do. Okay. The tibialis is right next to it. But the tibialis does something very weird. The tibialis crosses over the top of the foot. So, the tibialis is on your lateral side. When you rub the fibularis or the peroneals, you're probably rubbing the tibialis. Tibialis is more anterior, peroneals are more lateral, but they're right next to each other. Right next to each other. But the tibialis comes down and crosses over your foot and hooks on underneath. This is the stirrup of your foot. One muscle can pull your foot this way, the other muscle can pull your foot this way. One muscle can plantar flex you, the other one can dorsiflex you. So with these 2 or 3 muscles, depending on how you want to look at them, they can completely balance you. They work all day long, by the way. Right now, mine are working right now to make minor little adjustments so I don't fall over. Don't go too far forward, don't go too far back, don't go too far to the side, don't go, that kind of thing. That's what they're doing. They're doing mild eversions and inversions, plantar flexions and dorsiflexions so that I can stand upright. Because a tiny little change down there and I'll fall over. You guys just take it for granted because you're so darn good at walking now and standing. But there was a time when you were not. And these muscles were learning, your brain was learning to control them. So these create the stirrup of your foot. And it's the peroneus longus coming down underneath here, and brevis, and the tibialis anterior coming across the top of the foot down the same place. And they both have quite opposite actions, right? Peroneus longus and brevis do eversion and plantar flexion. The tibialis anterior does dorsiflexion and inversion. And they create the stirrup of your foot. There is some extensor muscles up here too, that are right up here too, by the way. They go down to your toes and your toe and your big toe. Like extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus. They're in that same area. Anyway, this whole speech is to tell you how darn important it is to rub deeply the anterior and lateral compartment of the leg. Because the anterior and lateral compartment of the leg house the tibialis anterior, the peroneus longus and brevis, and the extensor digitorum longus and extensor hallucis longus. And these muscles get very, very tired because what they do is they deal with foot balance and lifting your toes up so that you don't trip over them and all that kind of stuff. And they all live kind of on your shin and just to the outside of it. The anterior lateral compartment of the leg. Most massage therapists don't even rub it. And I would say it's in the top 5 areas to rub. Think about it on you right now. If you're somebody that moves around, stands, or anything, I bet you your shins on the anterior and the lateral part are tight. Have somebody in lab today put an elbow in them. It is the most delightful pain you will ever have. Don't make that face at me, Miss Petrie. It's wonderful. Anyway, so that's what these 3 muscles do. By the way, there is such a thing as a peroneus tertius or fibularis tertius. It's a muscle that many people don't have. And it's this little extension. So if somebody ever says there's 3 peroneals, they're talking about this tiny extra muscle that some people have and some people don't. It doesn't even act like a peroneal. It's not even important. We won't get to it right now, but I just want to kind of explain that. Okay, that's it. That's it. They both insert into the same place. Tibialis anterior, peroneus longus, both insert in the same place. One pulls the foot this way, one pulls the foot this way. One lifts it up, one pulls it down. Yeah? Yeah. Cool. All right. The left leg. This is the lateral side of it. Here's your shin bone. You should be able to palpate this on anybody. I don't care what they weigh, I don't care whatever. You should be able to feel their shin bone completely. And you shouldn't rub it. It doesn't feel good. But the key, this first muscle right here, is your tibialis anterior. I know that because it starts on the outside, on the left side here, on the lateral side, and it crosses over and goes to the medial side. This crossing over lets me know it's the tibialis anterior. It's crossing over and it's going underneath. It's going underneath to meet its buddy and its buddy is back here. So here's the tibialis anterior, its buddy back here is the proteus longus and brevis. They come underneath the ankle here and go underneath the foot to meet its buddy up here. The muscle in the middle, by the way, is the extensor digitorum longus and extensor hallucis longus. So this is anterior, and if you are truly anterior, you are truly working on tibialis anterior. You truly are. And the key to working this muscle better than other therapists is to get as close to the shin as you can. So if I don't use my thumb, I actually use an elbow. But if I were to take my thumb, I find bone to avoid bone. Most therapists try to avoid bone until they find it. I find it on purpose to avoid it. And here's what I mean by that. I find your shin bone on purpose. I'm not going to rub it, but I hit it. Even with my elbow, I hit it. I don't hit it, right? But I feel it. I'll get my elbow there. I feel your shin bone, and then I drop off laterally. And when you drop off laterally, you'll feel a little depression here. Miss Petrie's nodding her head because she knows what I'm talking about. She's done this type of stuff. You drop your elbow in here, and it will sit down. I know it doesn't look like it here, but it's got soft tissue to go into now. It'll sit down in this anterior tibialis, and you can strip this thing down. And on some people, more people than you realize, they've only had people do this to their thing, and it doesn't do anything for you. You'll strip down in there as hard as you can, and they'll be like, that is the greatest thing you've ever done. Like, this area gets so tight. So that's how I hit the tibialis anterior. I fall off here and strip down on it. Now, the tibialis anterior, what are its actions?
Dorsiflex.
Yeah, dorsiflex and invert. Really good, yeah. So if I want to make this extra powerful, and by the way, I wouldn't do this if you told me your shins were sensitive. If I'm sitting there rubbing this with my thumb and you're like, that's plenty, then I'm not going to do anything to make it extra powerful. But let's suppose you're somebody like me. You got your elbow in there and you're like, that's amazing. I'd like to really open this thing up. Macro and micro stretching together, right? This is micro stretching. Macro stretching is the big stretching. I would push the foot down. I would plantar flex the foot because I've stretched the tibialis anterior. Now I find the shin, drop off, put an elbow in it, and drive down here while I've got the foot dorsiflexed. By the way, lighten up at the end because you're going to run out of muscle. But I actually, plantar flex the foot, and because it stretches out that muscle, boom, and I hit that guy. That's to get extra crazy. Extra wonderful crazy. If you do this to a runner, they'll be your client for life. If nobody else has ever done it to them before, and they probably haven't. So that's that. And by the way, that pushing down on the foot will also get this muscle here, which is the extensor digitorum longus and extensor hallucis longus that we haven't learned about yet, but you guys already know. Oh, well, you said extensor. It's going to lift the toes up, and it's digitorums and then hallucis. It goes down here too. And pushing the foot down into a plantar flexion also puts it in stretch. So if my elbow kind of comes over a little bit more laterally, I can hit that as well too. I'm not sitting there going, oh my gosh, have I fallen off the anterior tibialis? It's okay. Anything in here is great to hit. Now, when you get completely laterally and you feel like you are on the fibula, you're on the fibularis or the peroneus longus. This muscle runs right over the bone. And so you're a little bit like, I almost feel like I'm on bone. I mean, you better feel soft tissue, but this, I don't usually use an elbow on. I just don't usually need as much power. But this is right on the outside of the leg, and I will trace it down to even behind the ankle and go a little light here and go behind the ankle a little bit. Boom. And I will get this one, right? But this one, if I want to emphasize it even more, this one actually, now I got to think for a second. This one actually plantar flexes, so I will dorsiflex the foot. So I will pull the foot up to stretch this out. So in general, I push the foot down when I'm working the anterior side. I pull the foot up when I'm working the lateral side if I want to get really crazy. And Ms. Petrie, to answer your original question, it is true that those are complex differences, right? But I also admit, I mean, I would like you guys to learn the complex differences. I really would. But I also admit that 5 years from now, if you guys are out there working and you've forgotten, like which way to push the foot and you just can't seem to figure it out, both ways is a good idea, right? We're trying to create movement. And I think that's what you're talking about too, Ms. Petrie, is you're like, I just move that foot and work the muscle. And that is actually very effective. There's no doubt about it. But in general, if you were trying to get crazy, you push the foot down, hit the anterior parts here, right off the shin, anterior parts, lift the foot up, hit the lateral parts, right down there. Now, any other questions? Does that make sense? Kind of? I mean, I know it makes sense while you're watching a video of a guy touching a plastic leg. I realize that in massage therapy, that's only half the thing, right? By the way, also please remember this about the meeting underneath the foot when you're working a foot. Those important attachments now are underneath the foot, and they're big attachments that do big things up here that we're about to learn about. Yeah? Okay. So,
I guess the thought would be that as you are stripping, then shouldn't you strip underneath the foot and around the ankles at the same time?
I mean, I think that's a nice idea. I don't know if I would strip around the ankles. Like, it just sounds so deep, what the word you're using. But would I trace around the ankles again? Because what I generally find is that, and you do too, I know you do, I find that I can go pretty deep here. As I get down here, muscle starts to disappear and I have to lighten up.
Right.
On either side, either the anterior, but it's great to take it around.
I put my thumbs around the ankles, like basically curving the ankle area, and then go underneath the foot.
Yeah. Everybody, what Ms. Petrie is talking about is what we call embellishment in massage, and it's what you want to do. So the idea is that you have these beautiful strokes that are deep and powerful, but they don't just end. They have this kind of beautiful flourish and embellishment at the end where you kind of get all the little loose ends tied up. So she comes down this leg and she's deeply stripping this out, but she doesn't just stop right here. Then she kind of takes it around the bottom of the foot and around the ankle and ties it all together. That's an embellishment or a flourishment at the end, and it's really what really good therapists do. They've got these beautiful, powerful moves, like when they're coming down your back, that's great. But they don't stop when they get to the sacrum. Then they kind of work off the sacrum and kind of release the glutes off that and then come back up again. That's the embellishment part. Otherwise, it's just, and this is good, especially if you're going all the way to sacrum, but it'd be really nice if you kind of tied some stuff together at the end. Or when you come all the way up to the top, if you're really getting the back of the head here. That's the embellishment at the end. Yeah, well said. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So let's do some quick review just to make sure I've got everybody here present and focused. And then we'll talk about why these muscles are so important and why they tie into fascial lines. And I believe this type of thinking will change your massage forever. Yeah? Cool, cool, cool. All right. Ms. Bilotic, what are the 3 calf muscles?
The soleus, the gastrocnemius, and the plantaris.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hansen, what is the main action of the 3 calf muscles?
To plantar flex.
Yeah. Plantar flex, yeah. Do any of them have any other actions?
The gastrocnemius and the plantaris can also flex the knee.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody, I hope you heard what she said, because we've been saying the gastrocnemius all along. That's the important one. But she is 100% correct. It's the plantaris and the gastrocnemius cross over the knee, and so they can also flex the knee. Very good, thank you. Miss Giannis, what are the three muscles that are found underneath the calf muscles?
The flexor digitorum longus, the flexor hallucis longus, and the tibialis posterior.
Yes. And those things, plantar flex or flex the toes or flex the big toe. Yeah. And by the way, we haven't talked about the tibialis posterior yet, but it essentially hooks into the bottom of the foot, kind of in the area that the tibialis anterior and peroneals hook too. So that little bottom of the foot is a hot zone. Really important. Cool. Cool. Thank you. Miss Petrie, what are the muscles that I can find on the anterior lateral compartment of the leg? This anterior.
The tibialis anterior, the perone.
Yep.
Is it peroneus? Is that how you say it?
Peroneus.
Longus and brevis.
Beautiful. Tibialis anterior, peroneus longus and brevis, or fibularis longus and brevis. Both those are the same muscle. Both correct. Yes.
Okay.
And we didn't teach you this, but I've got a muscle coming, two muscles, one coming down to the toes and one coming down to the big toe that would lift them up and extend them. What do you suppose we might...
Is that the flexor?
But it extends them. It's on top.
Oh.
You got the right idea. You got the right idea.
So is it the extensor digitorum longus?
Yes. And what about for the big...
hallicus?
The what?
The hallicus longus? Extensor hallicus, is that how you say it?
Extensor hallucis longus, yes.
Hallucis.
So the reason I'm smiling right now is that's not from memory. That's from her putting together hallucis, extensor, and the fact that it's long. Yeah, good job. Great job. Thank you. And that's the muscles you're massaging right here when you do the anterior lateral compartment. Cool. Miss Cooper? Miss Cooper, what are the three hamstring muscles? Miss Cooper, you are muted.
Oh,
There you go.
my bad. Sorry.
That's okay.
I hate being put on the spot.
I know. I'm sorry, but you are. So you got three hamstring muscles in the posterior femoral compartment. What are their names? Got a two-headed one on the femur.
Biceps femoris.
Yes, and two semis.
Biceps femoris.
And two muscles with the word semi in them.
Semimembranosus and semitendinosus.
Good job. So what were those three again, ma'am?
Semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and biceps femoris.
Very good. That's fine. Don't be hard on yourself.
I am hard on myself. I'm just so bad at memorization.
Yeah, your clients won't care.
I care.
Well, when you're older, you will realize.
Ask me that one, and that's the one I have a hard time with. I can tell you the calf muscles and the hips and the
Yeah. I tend to ask you guys, by the way, I hope you've noticed this, I tend to ask you questions that you missed before until you stop missing them. Yeah. Thank you, Miss Cooper. I love you, Miss Cooper. Miss Walker. Miss Walker,
Yes.
what are the three gluteal muscles?
Gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and gluteus minimus.
Very, very cool. Thank you. Mr. Tate. Mr. Tate, this is not fair, and I'm sorry, but what are the deep six lateral hip rotators found underneath the gluteus maximus? I hope you have notes. If you don't, it's okay. We can get somebody else to bail you out. The worst question I could ask, probably. And you may not have this, sir.
No, we went over it, but I'm trying to get my notes together.
Sure. Can I come back to you in a minute? Or
Yes,
you?
please.
You got it. Deep 6 lateral hip rotators, sir. Keep looking for those. Miss Moore, what are the 3 erector spinae muscles that run up your back? I call them the spinal erectors, but erector spinae muscles run up your back.
I don't know.
You don't know?
This thing, man.
What?
What is that way?
Well, one runs very close to the spine.
Is it the iliocostalis? That one?
Well, that is one of the spinal erectors, but that's not the one that runs close to the spine. That's the most lateral one. Iliocostalis, though, sure. What are the other 2?
Spinalis.
Yeah, spinalis. That's one that runs close to the spine. And what's the 3rd one?
Erector spinae.
No.
Wait.
It's super long.
Longissus?
Yes, longissimus. So what were those 3 muscles in order from medial to lateral?
Oh. Spinalis.
Yes.
Longissus.
Yes.
Iliocostalis.
Yes. Good job. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Stanley.
No.
Miss Stanley, what are the 5 hip adductor muscles?
So that would be adductor magnus, adductor brevis, adductor longus, gracilis, and pectineus.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Hey, which one crosses 2 joints?
Was it pectineus? No. I feel like it's adductor magnus, but I don't know. Thinking. Give me a hint.
Well, pectineus and adductor brevis are too short to get out down across the knee. So we need
it's
something.
magnus, not brevis.
Well, I know. I was just making a point about pectineus first. Pectineus is one of your guesses, and the pectineus is extremely short, like the adductor brevis. So those 2 are right out. Adductor magnus is huge, but it doesn't cross over the knee. It actually attaches to the adductor tubercle, which is on the femur. And it's in back, and it's often considered by some to even be almost like a 4th hamstring. So we need something longer. My worry is that when I say we need something longer, it's going to make you think of the adductor longus, which is not the longest adductor. It's just the longest adductor with the name adductor in it. So we need something even longer than the adductor longus. What is the longest adductor muscle? And I've now eliminated pectineus, adductor brevis, and adductor longus, and adductor magnus.
So then it's gracilis?
Yeah, gracilis. Gracilis crossed over your knee. Remember, gracilis inserts into the pes anserinus in the mismon real, along with the sartorius and along with the the semitendinosus. Wow, hamstring. Cool. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Harper, what are the 4 quads?
4 quads. Rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius.
That's 100% correct. I want to ask you a couple more questions because I want to show people how I want them to start grouping these muscles. So we're naming them right now, everybody, but we want to add some information to these naming packets that are in our head. So that's the quads. Where do I find this group, this whole group? Where would I find them?
The quads, it's in your anterior anterior, the front, the anterior part of your thigh. Anterior lateral part.
Anterior lateral femoral compartment. So they're found in the anterior lateral femoral compartment. You got the four names, anterior lateral femoral compartment. All four of them insert into the same area. Where do they insert? Even roughly. They all go down to the same area.
Yeah. They insert on the knee area.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll take that. They insert in the tibial tuberosity, the tibia, via the patellar tendon and ligament, so that they can create, what's their main action that all four create?
They all extend.
Cool.
Extend the knee.
Perfect. You're doing great, by the way. Perfect. Last thing is, one is special because it crosses over the hip and it can also create a hip flexion. Which one is that?
Yeah, it's the rectus femoris.
Cool. Thank you. Perfect. I like that little package of information. I appreciate you kind of going through that with me. Thank you. Cool. Miss Felix Osuna, what are the 5 abdominal muscles?
External oblique, internal oblique, the transverse abdominis, and then there's the rectus abdominis. There's one more. That's the quadratus lumborum.
4-sided muscle in the back. I think you just got them all. Thank you. Good job. Good job. Yeah, I love it. Miss Nguyen?
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Nguyen. What are the 4 rotator cuff muscles? These are in the shoulder. Some people remember them through SITS, S-I-T-S, but what are the 4 rotator cuff muscles? One's above the spine of the scapula, 2 below, 1 under.
I think it's the lavator of the scap.
No. You are right. The levator scapula does hook up here. So that's good. But these are rotator cuff muscles. So you've got a supra something, an infra something, a teres something, and a sub something.
I think supracapular. I don't know how to call that.
Supra, say supra.
Subclap. I don't know how to call
Are you saying sub?
Sub.
Are you saying subscapularis? Let's start with supraspinatus. Let's say that together. Supra. Spine. Atus. Supraspinatus. Now let's say infra. Atus. And anytime I say infraspinatus, you say what?
And the teres
Teres minor, yes, thank you. And then
minor.
and then sub.
And the subcapu.
Yeah, subscapularis.
I don't know how that.
Well, let's do it together. Sub. Scap.
You.
Lar.
La.
Is.
Oh.
It's a lot.
Subcapularis.
Yeah, subscapularis. Good job. Okay, so what were those 4 muscles? I got so lost now, I forgot. Okay, what's the one up on top? Yeah, supraspinatus. Su.
supra,
spine,
spine,
a,
a,
tus.
tus.
Supraspinatus. It's okay. Supra, spine, a, tus. Supraspinatus. 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 Good job. These are really good. These are hard. All right. Infraspinatus. Spinatus. A, tus. Infraspinatus. Tus. Infraspinatus. Good job. One last time. Infraspinatus. Great job. Okay. Teres minor. Teres minor. Yeah. By the way, Miss Nguyen, I'm not re-saying them because you're not saying them right. I'm just practicing with you. Teres minor. Okay. Sub. Scap. U. Lar. Is.
Okay. And
U.
you,
Lar. Is. Subscapularis. Subscapularis. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, by the way, and your bravery. That is not fun to do that in front of a group of people. I'm very proud of you, though. Thank you. And thank you for helping all of us. Like, people will be laying in bed tonight being like, subscapularis. It'll be really helpful. Trust me. Cool. Miss Monreal.
Yes.
Miss Monreal, what is the, we heard the 4 rotator cuff muscles. I've never asked you this before in this way, so this is going to be annoying, but I love annoying you. What are the 5 muscles that attach the scapula to the axial skeletal system, to your ribs and such, and move the scapula around? So there are 5 muscles that move the scapula around your rib cage. They elevate it, depress it, protract it, retract it, adduct it, abduct it, rotate it, all that good stuff. There are 5 muscles. They attach the scapula to your main body. And what are they?
Okay,
There's 3 in back.
rhomboids?
Rhomboids! She's 100% right. Rhomboids.
Okay.
And they help you do a adduction or a retraction of your scapula.
Retraction.
Cool.
Okay.
What works with the rhomboids? With them.
With them. So, pec.
With them. With
Oh,
them.
Well,
Pecs in front, rhomboids are back. People in front don't help people in back.
Oh, okay. Dude, calm down. Make me nervous.
Making you nervous. Come on. Let's go.
Okay,
Rhomboids.
so where's-
What runs right over the rhomboids and looks a lot like them, really?
Like the trap?
Yeah, the traps. Do the traps
Okay.
insert into the scapula?
Yeah, partially, right?
Partially. They insert in the spine of the scapula, the acromion process, and the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle. They grab on the scapula all day long. That's what they do.
Okay.
And then they insert in the spine back end. So traps. So the traps, the middle traps work with the rhomboids, right? What do the upper traps work with?
Levator scapula.
Yeah!
I mean,
Boom!
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
3 in back. Awesome. Levator scapula. Those both help elevate in back. What are the 2 in front that can fight some of these muscles? You were already headed here, but I stopped you and made you nervous.
Okay.
These are muscles that kind of do the opposite of some of these muscles.
Okay, so like I just don't know if serratus, does that connect?
Does serratus connect to the medial border on the anterior side of the scapula? Yes.
Okay, because you said it kind of connects to the rhombies, right?
The serratus anterior literally connects to the rhombies, but the rhombies are on the
Okay.
back side. This is very
Okay.
hard. I was trying to teach the other classes today. Really hard to teach. The rhomboids are here. The serratus anterior is under here, and they are both connected to the medial border of the scapula, and they fight for it like this all day long. Yes,
Okay.
that is a key point to this class for everybody, because that can create a tight band around your rib cage between the rhomboids and the serratus anterior. So anyway, serratus anterior, by the way, protracts or abducts and does a mild depression. Who else protracts, abducts, and does a mild depression of the scapula and often works with the serratus anterior?
Oh, okay. Pec minor.
Pec minor. I am glad that you recognize this. Thank you.
Okay.
Pec minor. Cool. It pulls forward too. So that's the 5 muscles that pull and move the scapula around. Now there's a whole bunch of muscles that come off the scapula and move the humerus around well after the scapula's gotten there. But those are the 5 muscles that are responsible for moving the scapula around. And therefore, in some ways, those are 5 big shoulder neck release muscles.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I hate being put on the spot. Miss Cooper, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I'm sorry. But you guys know a lot now. You need a little.
Don't be sorry. That's your job.
Thank you. Thank you. Miss Petrie, yes.
So you said there's 5 muscles that work with the rhomboids?
No. Sorry, Miss Petrie. What I was getting at, and I haven't phrased it this way before, is this scapula, both 2 of them, are tied to my body with muscles that move it around my rib cage. And there's only 5 muscles that kind of attach the scapula to my body and move it around. And they move it from front to back and up and down and twist it around. And those 5 muscles are, in back, it's my traps and my rhomboids and my levator scapula. In front, it's my serratus anterior and pec minor. And I can tell by the look on your face, I need to go in a little bit more detail, right? So I'm going to. This will make perfect sense. So take a look at the board up here. I was actually kind of doing this yesterday, but let me do it again here, because this is perfect. Okay. This is the back side, the posterior side of somebody's body. Right? And I'm trying to make ribs here. There. Okay. Maybe these ribs stick out over here. Okay. There's an arm. Can you see that? Okay. Cool. So on the back side, Miss Petrie, on the back side, we've got the trapezius. Right? The trapezius attaches the scapula to your spine and your head and everything, right? And it elevates, depresses, and retracts or adducts the scapula. It can pull it back, right? I think you see that. Good. Well, what helps the middle trapezius retract is the rhomboids. So what I kind of confused you is who works with who. Well, the rhomboids work with the middle trapezius, basically. Right? They're in the middle. What's cool from a massage therapist's point of view is I'm always rubbing both of these. There's no way to rub the middle trapezius and not rub the rhomboids, major and minor. So those 2 work together, usually. And then remember up here we've got a little levator scapula that goes from the spine of the scapula to the neck. Levator scapula helps the upper trapezius. And by the way, everybody, I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but literally on this medial border, you've got the rhomboids major, the rhomboids minor, and then the levator scapula. So they're kind of the under the trapezius scapular muscles. And the trapezius on the top here, grabbing on this part, being a bigger guy. These are the little guys, and then the trapezius comes along as kind of the bigger guy. over the top. You've got a lot of that in your body. If you think about it, you've got the underlying muscles and then the big guys on top. So like your rotator cuff muscles and then your deltoid on top. So same kind of concept. This whole medial border has got rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, levator scapula, but what's really crazy is underneath this thing, attached to this medial border, but on this side, like this hand here, is my serratus anterior coming around to the front. And that's the other two muscles. If I flip this body around, I hope, can you see over this part of the board, I hope? If I flip this body around,
Yeah, I can see it.
good. We're going to imagine these scapulas are behind us now. And we've got these arms off here. But what's really important is coming around from this medial border from back and behind is this serratus anterior kind of to the front. And then, I don't know how to draw that three-dimensional kind of stuff. And then you've got, from this coracoid process right about here, you've got the pec minors in front. And those tend to work together. Serratus anterior and pec minor tends to work together. I guess if you wanted to lump it all together, you could say the traps, levator scapula, and rhomboids work together on the back side. And they all help to move the scapula from the front to the back, up, down, rotate it, twist it around, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And all of those muscles are either attached to the medial border of the scapula on one side or the other, up or down, and the spine of the scapula, the acromion process. Those 5 muscles grab onto this and grab onto this front and back all over the place, fighting for this sucker. Kind of cool. Thank you for asking that question. That was a great question. It helped me be a better teacher. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Tate, how are we doing with the deep 6 lateral hip rotators?
I got them.
I bet you do, sir. Can you lay some knowledge on us?
Alright, I'll do my best. Okay, so the piriformis, the gemellus superior,
Gemellus superior. Obturator.
Obturator, internus.
Yep.
The gemellus inferior.
Yep.
The arbitrator, externus.
Yep.
Externus.
Yeah.
And quadratus femoris.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. You're very brave. Thank you. Please say these 6 words in public that you've probably only said once in your entire life. Yeah. Good job. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff. Okay. Let's see. Did we work through all the other stuff? We kind of got up there. We got to the 4 rotator cuff muscles. We got the blah, 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 blah. Cool. I like that. Pretty happy. Okay. Mr. Kandaris. Good sir. Okay. You got to help us review all this because we've kind of gone through almost everything. What are the 3 calf muscles?
Gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris.
Good. What are the 3 muscles found underneath them, even deeper on the posterior leg?
Tibialis posterior, digitorum, or extensor digitorum longus.
It's on the back side and goes to the bottom. So it's gonna
popliteus.
No. I'm just saying that you can't create I think you said flexor. Flexions would have to be on top, kind of going. I'm sorry. I mean, I think you said extensor, and it's a flexor. Mm-hmm. It's a flexor.
Okay. So yeah, what were the other 2 then?
I don't know. I need you to say. So there's 3 in back. What are they?
I don't know. You lost me for a minute.
So what are the 3 calf muscles?
gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris.
Cool. What are the three muscles that are found underneath them? And you were on the right track. They cause you to flex your toes and flex your big toe and kind of flex your whole foot. But
So, what did you say, flexor?
flexor. That's a good start.
Is there a flexor digitorum?
Yes. So
Oh.
flexor, digitorum,
Longus.
longus. Good. And what's the one that flexes the big toe? So if it flexes the big toe, say flexor. What's her?
What about that? Adductor digitorum minor?
Sir, don't look up answers. It's making it worse for you. Sir,
Right.
it's a flexor, so say flexor.
Flexor.
Good. What's the word for big toe? That I said, remember, for all 7 big toe muscles.
Hallis.
Yes, flexor hallucis,
Okay.
and it's long.
Longus.
Good. So we got flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, and then we have a tibialis that's in back. What do we call that? What's the word for back?
Posterior.
Good. So what is this muscle called?
Flexor.
How about tibialis posterior?
Tibialis posterior.
Good. Okay. So what are the 3 deep muscles that are underneath the calves?
Flexor digitorum. Longus.
Yep.
Flexor digitorum brevis.
No.
No.
It's the long one that goes to the big toe.
Flexor hallucis. Longus.
Yeah. And then the...
Tibialis posterior.
Good. Okay. So what are the 6 muscles that I can find in the posterior compartment of the leg?
So basically just all the ones that I just said.
If that's the muscles that exist in the posterior compartment of the leg, yes.
Yes, the gastrocnemius, the plantaris, the soleus, the tibialis posterior, the flexor digitorum longus, and the flexor hallucis longus.
Awesome. Of those, which one flexes the big toe?
The flexor hallucis longus.
Yes, sir. Of all those, which one flexes the middle, the toes 2 through 5?
Flexor digitorum longus.
Yes, sir. Of those, which ones create a plantar flexion?
Tibialis posterior.
Yes.
And I guess, yeah, the hallucis, flexor hallucis longus assist that.
Yes.
They all do.
What's all of them?
The flexor digitorum longus as well.
Yes.
Oh, and I guess, yeah, the gastrocnemius does as well.
Yes.
And the soleus and the plantaris.
Yes.
They all plantar flex.
Yes. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Okay, thank you. Miss Hunter.
Yes.
Howdy, madam. Miss Hunter.
Hello.
What are the 3 hamstring muscles?
Semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and bicep-femoris.
Yes, you're exactly right. Can you tell them to me now from lateral to medial? Bless you.
Thank you. Lateral to medial.
It's harder.
Is it semi? Oh, so it's bicep femoris.
Yeah.
Semimembranosus.
Well, they mix around down there, and so you get really, like, it depends on where you are, but it really is probably biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. Membranosus starts with an M, and so I remember it's most medial. But the really important part is just remember the biceps femoris on the lateral side, and the semitendinosus and semimembranosus are on the medial side. That was good. That was good. All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Torres.
Yes.
Ms. Torres, what are the deep 6 lateral hip rotators that Mr. Tate so kindly told us about?
Okay. The gemellis superior, inferior.
Yep.
The arbitrator, externus,
Obturator.
Yes, arbitrator.
Obturator, if it helps. I don't know. You're fine.
I don't know. Say it again.
Obturator.
Obturator.
Yeah.
Externus, internus.
Yeah.
And then piriformis. And then quadratus femoris.
Yeah. Hey, which one is most superior?
Piriformis.
Yes, you're right. Which one is most inferior?
Quadratus femoris.
Yes! Awesome. And the other 4 live between those two, so thank you. That's super helpful. Which one can pinch the sciatic nerve?
Piriformis.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Torres. It's been a pleasure. Good job. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about fascial lines, everybody. So, I'm going to tape off a skeleton or something here in a second, but I want to make a real quick point that you'll visually see here. So, let's look at something here. Now, we've got a lot to look at, but I want you to see a couple things. This big white band right here, right? This, actually, let's go way up here. Anybody know what this big white band is? I hope everybody knows what this big white band is, but...
IT band?
IT band, yes. Iliotibial band. Because it connects the crest of the ilium to your tibia. Iliotibial band, yeah? What muscle is this up here that hooks into this band and tenses up a lot of fascia?
Is it the TFL?
Fascia lata.
Yes, it is the TFL, tensor fascia lata. What's this muscle back here? It's big, this muscle.
Gluteus maximus.
Gluteus maximus, and it actually, believe it or not, whether this thing shows it well or not, actually inserts into the IT band too. So you've kind of got this triangulation coming down the IT band. The IT band goes down, right? It's not super clear from here, but let's see if we can see it. It goes into all this fascia right here, this white stuff. You know how strong this white stuff is. What muscle is this? Right here in the front of the shin. It just ran into.
The
Tibialis
anterior.
Tibialis anterior. They're actually fascially connected. Right? Now, don't worry, I'm going to make another point with this in a second, but I wanted to show you something visually. Miss Hunter, what hamstring is this on the lateral side of the leg here?
Is that 2 heads?
It's on the lateral side of the leg, yeah, 2 heads.
A bicep. Something.
Biceps, you were exactly right. Thank you, ma'am. Biceps femoris. Biceps femoris comes down here. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but biceps femoris comes down here, goes into all this fascia right here. And what's this weird muscle it goes into that actually goes down around the malleolus here and goes underneath the foot? This thing right over the fibula. What's this muscle right here? We just learned it.
Fibularis?
It's the fibularis. It's peroneals. Fibularis. So you've got an IT band from the side and something from the back meeting down here, going down the foot, fascially going all the way under and connecting underneath the foot. And connecting underneath the foot.
That's all one fascia moving together. Do they have separate names for the fascia, or is it?
They do name, for one thing, I just love what you said. That's all one thing moving together. Yeah, that's the point we're about to make today. So they are different muscles along a chain, but it's an inseparable chain, and they can all contract and affect that chain, right? So if you sewed your pants to your socks, to your underwear, because there's different layers of fascia, to your shirt, and then to your jacket, and even sewed it kind of to your, if you're wearing a cap or something, sewed that all together, you can see how like issues with your socks might actually affect even your shirt upstairs, right? Because they're all kind of tied together. That's your body. And they do kind of have names, Miss Petrie, in the sense that we call them fascial trains or chains. Trains like choo-choo trains, or chains, or lines. And we do have like a back fascial line and a front fascial line and side fascial lines, and I'm going to go over those today. Why are these important? Let me explain this to you. By the way, I really mean this right now, what I'm about to tell you. You are all far enough along, those of you in this regular class here, you are all far enough along that if you could get your license right now, you could go out and become a successful massage therapist. You can name general muscles in the body. You're already better than most. When you go out there, you'll see. Miss Petrie will tell you, most people don't even know their kind of general muscles. Can't even kind of name off all the calves, all the hamstrings, all the quad. You already know that much. You could go do it right now. What will happen in the next 3 months, if you choose to have it happen, if you choose to put in the extended effort, is you will elevate yourself when we start learning about what muscles really do, how they really work together, which ones cross the knee. What if you put in that extra effort in these kind of fascial chains and stuff, it'll elevate you to that true 1% of therapists. It truly will. So that's your choice, but I just want to kind of let you know you're good either way. I'm actually okay either way. We need average therapists and great therapists in the world. That's okay. But that's what I know it sounds snarky too. I didn't mean it snarky, but that's kind of where we're at. Okay. Tissue. So we are in the tissue lengthening business pretty much, and the circulation business. And we're probably in the tissue lengthening business because it allows more circulation in. When I stretch stuff out, it allows more circulation in. And I'm probably in the circulation business because it makes tissue lengthen. So I'm not sure which came first, chicken or the egg. But if I bend over and try to touch my toes, and I cannot, right? And Miss Gianna's, just because I'm looking at her, says, well, I'm going to help you, Tap Scott. And she just pushes down on my back. I will be able to touch my toes. Thank you, Miss Gianna's. She pushed forcefully enough on my back, and I can now touch my toes. Will there be problems? Yes. I probably can now touch my toes because I have torn something. Because of Miss Giannis's aggressive behavior once again. So we don't do that, right? So the problem in massage is we want tissue to stretch, but I can only get it to stretch so far in one session before it tears, right? And think about what most massage therapists do, including me sometimes. We find a problem spot, and what do? We try to beat it into submission. That's what I do, right? But the problem is that problem spot can only get so much better during that one session. So, if I can recognize a fascial chain or train, don't worry, this doesn't have to show up super good. If you think about it, in a small little area of my body, I'm lucky if I can get an extra millimeter of stretch in that little area. That'd be amazing. That's nothing. But what if I could get an extra millimeter here here, 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 along a long series of tissue. Those millimeters would start to add up to inches, which is not fair because I just switched from metric to the American system. But the point is, those little wins, right, would add up to big wins. It's what you guys do in class, by the way. Every day you show up, it's a little millimeter, right? Gets you to that huge goal of your license. That's kind of how life works. So when we understand fascial chains, when I say, hey, you've got a problem in your neck, but it's along this whole fascial chain, I'm going to loosen up the whole chain. If I can gain that little bit of advantage all the way down the chain, all of a sudden the neck is under a tremendous amount of relief, right? So if you're broke, and I give you $1, that doesn't help you, but if everybody in the school walked by and handed you $1, you'd have a lot of money at the end of the day. It's that kind of thing. We're trying to get small wins over a long area, and that is possible. And because fascial chains exist, because of what Miss Petrie, in her brilliance, said, they're all connected, they're all one thing. And we know they are. This is why when I put my leg out, like I always say, and I feel a stretch in my hamstring, but I all of a sudden dorsiflex my foot, I feel more of a stretch in my hamstring. That's because my calves, even though we teach them separate, are attached to my hamstrings. So therefore, I can affect them. I can affect my hamstrings by affecting my calves, by affecting my feet, by affecting my back. They're all tied together. Fascial chains are the reason I can stand up too, because I'm tied with these big long bands, these elastic bands. And they're the reason that Miss Hanson's kids can bounce around the house and stuff. They're very springy and flexible and things like that, and they conserve a lot of energy and they hold you, tie you all together. If you think about it, when I'm moving like this, I might look silly, but I'm moving as a unit. I'm not moving little separate stuff, right? Because my fascial lines actually work as big waves and units. That's how fascial chains work. Yes, Miss Monreal, hit me.
So then if someone was limited on time, we would mostly want to target like the main parts where that fascia would be then, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So if you came to me with a back problem, I might just hit the fascial lines that I thought would affect your back problem. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so mainly if you're working the upper back, lumbar region, and you do a little bit on the legs, you're hitting all of those lines, correct? Well, some important ones.
Yeah.
I know you have.
You're starting to incorporate fascia ideas into your work. Yes. Right?
Okay.
And think about it where you guys started. When you first started this class, we rubbed stuff. We rubbed stuff, right? And then we said, well, let's learn some anatomy and learn that there's stuff underneath the stuff we're rubbing. So we kind of learned about muscle layers and we got to stuff underneath. That was kind of cool. Then we said, hey, let's learn the stuff that's connected to that stuff so we can work out laterally, you know, and medially, but you know what I mean? So let's see what that's kind of connected to. So we kind of looked under the surface and we started looking at stuff that's connected. Then we also said, hey, let's look at O's and I's too, like origins and insertions, because let's not just rub part of the muscle belly, let's get it all the way where it attaches. Let's go all the way down the sacrum. Let's really do that, right? And then we said, hey, let's figure out how to put this in a stretch and rub it in a stretch so we can kind of turbocharge it. Macro plus micro. Kind of do that. That's kind of what Miss Petrie was talking about today, where you flex, dorsiflex, and plantar flex to get the anterior tibialis and the peroneals and all that stuff. To kind of play with that kind of concept. Yeah. Yes, Miss Monreal, please.
As far as origins and insertions are concerned, and I don't know if I've asked this question before, but if you were only going to rub one, let's say you can only rub one, would you go for the origin or the insertion?
Well.
And I know that we're not typically going to do that. What's more important, I guess? Or are they both equally?
I guess origin is more important, if you really, really had to do that. But what I was about to say is, when we study fascial lines, the origin of one area is the insertion of the next.
Okay.
So, how I would like to change your question, your very challenging question, I like it. I guess I would get origins, right, before insertions. I get the base. But what I really like to say is, instead of emphasizing muscle bellies, I'd like to emphasize muscle attachments, because that's where the least blood flow is. That's where it's the most avascular. And that's where one muscle is changing into another muscle along a fascial chain. And so unlike most massage therapists, right? Most massage therapists just kind of rub muscle bellies. I would actually like to overemphasize the place where the transition occurs. I'd like to double down on origins and insertions.
Yes, I have had people say like, the fascia ligaments, like there's no blood flow there, you don't need to rub that. But that's the very reason why you probably should.
Yeah, and by the way, and we all know they're wrong. If there was no blood flow there, it would be dead.
Right.
Dead. Arm falling off, dead. There's blood flow there. It's exactly what you said, Miss Monreal. Thank you. There's low blood flow there, which is probably why it needs my most attention. Right? The area that's seeped in blood doesn't need my most attention. I love when somebody comes to me and they've truly got a strict muscular problem, a knot just in a muscle or a little torn muscle. They're going to be fine in 2 days. Muscles heal like that. Tendon, ligament, fascial problems? No. Yeah. Miss Petrie, yes.
I wanted to ask, so now starting to learn these fascial lines in chains, trains, however you choose to call them, is this going to now help tie in where insertions and origins actually are located without having to try to memorize it in a book?
Yeah. We're going to do two things.
It's going to kind of tie stuff better together, because I really struggle with trying to remember where origin and insertions actually are. Like, these names start becoming an issue for me over time. Like, I can't, and it just comes to a point where it's like, I can't tell you. I don't. I can give you the area.
Yeah, I want to warn you all. I'm really glad you asked this question. So the answer is yes. That's what we're going to be doing. I've said this before, but I just want to be really clear about this, because it'll be of help to you, and I think you'll be thankful later, but it will be annoying too. We are going to start packaging up information now. You've been given information like this the whole time, right? You can talk about the calves, but now we're going to package them up. What do the calves go with? What fascial line are they going? Where do they insert? Why are they important? Boom. Hamstrings. What are the hamstrings? Where do they insert? Why are they important? What fascial line are they in? Boom. And I will be asking those questions for the next 3 months, and I will be expecting answers. So it's okay if they're wrong, but you will find me coming back to you over and over again if they're wrong. Like, we gotta learn this. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So let's start with fascial lines. Let's do that. It's going to be beautiful. Okay. So this is kind of our evolution of your massage career. It's kind of exciting. Packets of info, all this stuff. Let's see what time we have. 10. We probably have time to do the front and back fascial lines. So this is Mr. Tapscott. That's my nose, and that is my curl on top of my head. And this. Cool. We're not going to worry about my arms right now. I'm armless. I mean, with a nose like that, who needs an arm? Okay. Cool. All right. So let's talk about this. Let's start from we're going to do the back fascial line first, or the back fascial train, or the back fascial, I don't care what you call it. Let's start at the bottom of the foot. And you have to remember, everything kind of comes together in feet because you're trying to tie down this big tower, Remember, I really want you to think about your clothes all sewn together. It would annoy you in some ways, but it would also be kind of nice in some ways. If your clothing was all sewn together, there's some stuff where you could kind of relax. And kind of the sewed together part of your pants and your shirt would kind of hold you together. That's what fascia does for you, right? And if you sewed up good and tight, you wouldn't have to suck in your gut as much. Your clothes kind of hold it in. Your fascia does that too, right? And even squatting down, your clothes would be kind of tight and all sewn together, but it'd actually be easier to get back up because they're kind of tight. That's what fascia does. It's kind of like, you know, kind of like stretchy clothing sewn all around you. All right, so what fascia is on the bottom of the foot?
Is it plantar fascia?
Yes,
It's called?
plantar fascia. She took the bottom of the foot, the name for it, plantar region, and it's plantar fascia. By the way, this stuff is thick. Thick, 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 thick. It's the reason that your little chicken bones in your feet don't break all the time. This stuff is amazing. Okay, so we've got plantar fascia down here, right? Plantar fascia, the bottom of the foot. It actually goes from the toes to the heel. Right? Cool. Okay. Let me ask some questions here. Mr. Kandaris, sir, what three muscles insert into the calcaneus, into the heel?
The soleus does, and the gastrocnemius does through that longer tendon. Yeah. Calcaneus tendon.
Yeah. I'll use the calcaneus. Give me the third one. You're nailing it.
And doesn't the plantaris as well?
And the plantaris do. So all those come down into the heel, right? But only one. Which one crosses over the knee joint too, sir?
The gastrocnemius.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Awesome. All right. So I've got a muscle that attaches into the heel, into the fascia, the plantar fascia, and goes across the knee. And that muscle is the gastrocnemius. By the way, none of this means that the other muscles don't count or they're not important, or if you have an ankle problem, you shouldn't rub the soleus or whatever. But if you're looking at long chains and how the body holds stuff together and areas where one area could be affecting another, this is the stuff that's sewn together, right? So we've got the plantar fascia, and I don't mean they're just kind of connected. I mean truly if we killed somebody today, skinned them and took them apart, these things would be like, if you go to a cadaver lab, this stuff is sewn together. You pull on the gastric, you're pulling on the plantar fascia. We just had this discussion in this class like a week ago when we were talking about working on plantar fasciitis. This is why you definitely do the calves. But what crosses over with the gastrocnemius here that goes up to the ischial tuberosity of the hips? What three muscles cross over here and go up here?
Would it be the hamstring muscles?
It would be all day long, sir. What are their names?
The biceps femoris, the semi-tendinosus, and the semi-membranosus?
You are 100% correct. Hamstrings. The semi, and the bifem. Beautiful. And we can actually see those truly touch. Now, the next one doesn't have to actually touch in the same area the last one ended. It's just got to grab the hip bone somewhere. Yeah?
May I ask a question though? Is this still plantar fascia?
Sorry.
Is this...
No. Well, it's not called that anymore, no. This is just the back fascial line. That's what we call it.
So it starts off, you're going to go from the bottom of the foot up, and it starts off as plantar fascia and then just becomes fascia?
Yeah. I'm rubbing my head because in talking about the miracle of the human body, I really mean this, in the miracle of the human body, in human terms is almost impossible. It really is. So, is it the same fascia? Yeah, it was never plantar fascia to begin with. Some guy like me came along and said, let's call the stuff on the bottom of the foot plantar fascia. Let's call this the plantar region. What does that mean? It means nothing. Like, are the veins and arteries on the bottom of the foot really different than the veins and arteries in the leg? No, they're just a continuation of those. We just give them different names. Like, it's really hard to answer these questions anymore. You're all fascia. And does it change shapes in different sections? Yes. The fascia of the bottom of the foot is blending into the fascia of the calf, which is blending into the fascia of the hamstrings.
Right.
But fasciologists would argue it's all the same fascia. It's a connected line of fascia. They'd say that came first, and the muscles filled it in. And I'll try to explain that in 1 second. Mr. Kandaris.
I was just thinking, like, whenever I thought about plantar, like, just the term in general, and because it involves, like, the lower calf and foot region, I always just thought, like, because you're planting your foot, so
Yes.
plantar, I don't know, that's what...
That's how I think about it too, sir. That's how it helps me remember. I plant my foot on the ground firmly. Yeah. Well said. Ms. Petrie, another way to look at it, and this is honestly the way I look at it. So some people say we are muscular beings with fascial connections. So my gastric hooks to my hamstrings hook, right. That's a muscular being with fascial connections. I would say I'm a fascial being with pockets of muscles. And here's what I mean by that. This woven fascial suit that I've got on, right? This fascia that's everywhere, by the way. Connective tissue is the most plentiful tissue in your body. Not nervous tissue, not muscular tissue, not epithelial tissue, connective tissue. You are more gristle, you are more rubber band, you are more steel than you are muscle, anything else. You are connective tissue beings. That connective tissue has pockets in it, though. This connective tissue that's everywhere has pockets in it that can contract, and we call those muscles. And so my chest pocket, I mean, when you look at my chest even, if I took off my shirt, if you looked at my chest, you'd be like, yeah, it's just skin and stuff there. But part of it can contract, but it's fascia everywhere. So I say you're wearing a fascial suit with contracting pockets in certain areas. Yes, Mr. Kandaris, please.
Well, like, what is the car? The frame or the motor and the
Right.
engine that runs it?
Right. It all depends on how you want to talk about it, yes. But I want to actually talk about it from the fascial suit point of view.
Makes sense. I don't know. That's how I thought about it. I was like,
I love it. You are...
everything else kind of makes you run. It's just your suit and your skin are like what's pretty around you, you know?
Yeah. Well said. Miss Monreal.
Yeah, back in the day when they thought that fascia was garbage and they would perform surgeries and just throw it away, I can't even imagine what that did to those people's bodies.
Well, it's interesting you say that because so these muscular pictures we look at that I have like on my wall, like that stuff, they're beautiful for learning muscles, right?
Yeah.
But they had to scrape all this fascia away to get you to see that, to make it look that way. And I was at a cadaver lab here a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, the guy did a really good job with the dissection, and you could see the lats and all sorts of stuff in the back. They had the body face down. And I said, this is amazing, the detail and the separation of the muscles, because muscles aren't really separate. And he goes, oh yeah, he goes, I took away 2 trash bags full of fascia to scrape these out and make them look this way.
Wow.
I think he meant, I mean, the way he said it, I envisioned big trash bags. And so...
I would think so.
Yes. So it's kind of like, I mean, not to get weird or anything, but it's kind of like pork chops and filet mignon and steaks and T-bones. They're those ways because somebody sliced them those ways. That doesn't mean they grew in the body that way, right? We arbitrarily did that. We took away the connections, right? We said there's no other stuff because we wanted to study it. And it's very helpful. It's very helpful to just talk about the biceps when you're studying how the biceps pull. But they're just the pulling mechanism in your body. They are not the connecting mechanism that all works together. And nobody uses just their bicep or just their lat or just anything separately. We're meant to work in these big, long chains. Yeah. So that's why we're kind of studying this, because you can literally work on somebody's feet and help their neck. And this is super helpful too when you're working on somebody. You're like, I can't figure out what your problem is. You've now got a lot of stuff to really look at to give them some relief. By the way, super helpful with postural problems, right? Because they run all up and down. So far we got the plantar fascia, the gastrocnemius, the hamstrings, all three of them, right? And they don't normally include this in the back fascial line, but I do. I would include the gluteus maximus here. I just feel like the gluteus maximus kind of ties all this together, but you don't have to include it because we're in the hip bone already and there's other stuff that inserts down in here. Yeah. But anyway, what's a muscle that goes to the back of my head all the way down here, basically? Connects my head to my butt.
Longissimus?
Longissimus is right. One of the three spinal erectors.
So do you consider like, what is it, the thoracolumbar fascia as part of that fascia line? Or would you just reference longissimus?
I mean, I would. You're absolutely right. I was just keeping it simple. But you're absolutely right. I would consider this kind of thoracolumbar aponeuroses that, by the way, blends into the glutes, blends into the longissimus. So let's throw it in there. Thoracolumbar app. Because I don't even know how to spell aponeuroses. Aponeuroses. And that gets you up to the head. Now, I'm not saying this is true 100% of the time. By the way, this is true 100% of the time. You're connected this way 100% of the time. Every human being I've ever known is connected this way. But I'm not saying that everybody that has a neck problem will be benefited by you working on their plantar fascia. But I have seen demonstrations that were shocking. Where somebody was having like back problems, they couldn't bend over very much in the back, and they worked on the bottom of their foot with just a little ball and just loosened up the fascia there, and all of a sudden they could bend over and touch their toes. I mean, stuff that I was like they kept the camera on because you would never believe it. Because if I told you that I sewed my shirt to my pants and my pants down to my socks and my socks to my shoes, then I told you I was having a hard time bending over. And I said, where's the problem? You would say, well, you need to look at your shirt, your pants, your socks, and your shoes. Because they're all hooked together back here. It's all one line. Does that make sense? Good. Who was going to say something? Yes, please, Ms. Monreal.
Okay, but how would they know, okay, well, I'm going to work on the foot? Like, as opposed to like, oh, okay, maybe it was on the calf, or, I mean, how do you get to know that?
Okay, well, there's a couple things you can do. So this back fascial line. One is, part of this is just to remind you guys, like, hey, a back problem's not a back problem. So it's kind of what you were talking about, Ms. Monreal. Like, part of it is just like, hey, when you're working the back, you should always be working the glutes and probably the hamstrings. I mean, right? And it's not crazy to do the calves and the bottom of the feet. It's just not crazy. So just in general, it's just kind of, instead of just thinking in layers and depths and working on an area, thinking about stretching out your massage because of these fascial chains. But to answer your question, Ms. Monreal, you said, how do you know that there's a problem in a particular chain? You can test the flexibility in that area. Right? Where are they getting stuck? What is causing them to stick? Right? If their foot is highly inflexible, then there might be a problem with the plantar fascia. If their calf is highly inflexible, maybe there's a problem with their gastrocnemius. If their hamstring is highly inflexible, take a look at the hamstrings, that kind of stuff. However, they are all connected, so you have to still branch out from them a little bit. Because a sticking in one area can actually cause problems in another area. And let me point out something that you can't test for that's really tricky and really cool. Remember our proprioreceptors? Anybody remember what your proprioception is? Your proprioreceptors, what they do for you? Yes, Ms. Monreal.
They like help you know where you are in space.
Yeah.
For everything else.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the Golgi tendon complex and the muscle spindles?
I mean, I remember us talking about it. Can't say I fully get it, but yes.
They're designed to stop me from stretching too far, too fast, and tearing something.
Okay.
So if I have a stuck Golgi tendon or spindle receptor or one that's set too low anywhere along here and I try to bend over, it's going to send a signal and say, whoa, stop, stop. And that can be coming from tension anywhere here. So just rubbing that stuff tends to help reset those muscle spindles and those Golgi tendon receptors and can open up the whole area. Yes, Ms. Monreal.
So is a proprioceptor a Golgi tendon or a...
Yes, sorry. Golgi tendons and muscle spindles are two types of proprioceptors.
Proprioceptors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Proprioception, by the way, means to see oneself.
Okay.
And it's the reason that I know that my arm is like this, even if I wasn't in a video, I could tell you where my arm was at, which just feels so common sense. We're like, of course you can. Yeah, of course you can because you feel it. Like, there's something actually telling me how far I'm bending, even how fast I'm moving. And these things catch that stuff. They also catch, by the way, how hard I'm pulling on stuff. They stop me from tearing all sorts of things. But proprioceptors are a whole group of receptors that allow me to... They really give you your sense that you're actually here and not dreaming. They allow me to feel like movement and bend and fold and pressure and speed and all that kind of stuff. They're all different receptors. But the Golgi tendon complex ones...
Muscle spindles and Golgi tendons.
Those ones tend to keep you from stretching too far, and they can get set short. If I sit at a desk for years on end, my body starts to just think that's as far as I can go. And so I could have stuck ones anywhere along that back fascial line. Anywhere along any fascial line, but I'm just using the back fascial line right now as an example. Yes, Ms. Torres?
I have a question. So I was watching this video where this guy was doing bicep curls, like he was like a bodybuilder, and he torn his tendon. I think he tore the whole tendon. Like you could see the whole bicep just went up. I don't know. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah, I haven't seen the video, but I have seen what you're talking about. If the bicep tears down here, you will actually see it retreat up the arm.
Yeah.
And it balls up here,
exactly.
and they have to actually cut the skin, reach in with forceps, pull it back down, and screw it back into the arm.
Yeah, that was actually my question. How do they do that? How do they put it back?
They screw it back into the arm, and I think they essentially really use screws. They have to bring it back down. They screw the fascia in the arm, and it has to heal. Like it takes a while for it to heal, and it is very common on biceps. Because these bodybuilders and guys in general, I'd say, we tend to use, we can really isolate that muscle. We tend to use way too much weight, and it tears, you know? Yeah. Yes, Ms. Monreal.
Will the fascia ultimately reattach itself to the bone?
Yeah, they do fully heal, usually, but it can take a while, right? And it's not good. And bodybuilders are more prone. I'm not trying to pick on bodybuilders. It's an amazing sport. That's fine, but they're more prone to it because steroid use makes your muscles grow faster than your fascia.
Oh wow!
So the engine gets stronger than the transmission, to use Mr. Kondaris's kind of analogies. The engine gets stronger than the transmission, and they blow out the transmission. The muscles get stronger than the tendons and the ligaments, and that can be a real problem.
This is a little off the subject, and I'll try to not make it too much off. So, have you ever noticed on certain people, and I would say like certain people who work out a lot and maybe take like a lot of whey protein stuff, it's almost like their muscles are not lean. To me, I would describe it like it's almost like it feels like it's filled with water. So not lymphy, but it just feels totally different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
So muscles, so you're bringing up a really big, very interesting thing, which is that people's fat and people's muscle feels different on different people. Some people have really hard fat, some people have really, and I know it's supposed to be called adipose, but I'm just trying to make a point. Some people have really kind of fluffy fat, and some people have really hard, lean muscles like you're talking about, and some people have very puffy muscles, and many people, it changes from time to time. Muscles have a tremendous amount of water in them, and it depends on how much water is being drawn into those muscles. In fact, one of the tricks that bodybuilders try to do before they go on stage is, don't quote me exactly on this, but they cut their salt intake but increase their potassium intake, I believe. And what that does is they want to get the salt out from between the cells, the interstitial fluid. They want to get water out from between those, and cutting your salt helps with that. It helps on your water retention. And they'll even take diuretics, right? Get the water out of that. But they want water in their cells, like their muscle cells, because they want those to puff up. And I believe potassium helps with that. Anyway, but that's why you can get those different effects. And I don't know if it's the protein. I really think it actually has to do with water constitution and all that kind of stuff going on in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, it has to do with fat content too. When you first gain fat, you gain it inside muscles. So if you work on a runner, a marathon runner who weighs 135 pounds, and you look at his or her muscles, they are lean. There's no fat inside them whatsoever. Whereas some, like bodybuilder kind of guys, where they're not bodybuilding all the time, they're also gaining some fat inside those muscles, and their muscles are huge, but they're also kind of soft too. They got a little, you know, fat inside them too. So that could be it too. There's just lots of factors. It's a good observation though. People are very different. Okay. So, one last point. It doesn't have to happen this way, but since we're making this point here, you can even argue that this goes into the suboccipitals and then the shower cap called the Gallia aponeurotica. Which is a fascial sheet on top of your head. You've got three big fascial sheets in your body. Thoracolumbar aponeuroses, Gallia aponeurotica, and the abdominal aponeuroses. Now, by the way, we're actually going to discuss it getting to the front line a different way. But I just want to point out to you, you actually can have tension in the back that really does this to people, where their heads are kind of like this when they come in, and later they walk out and they're kind of relaxed again. Yes, Miss Monreal.
The Gallia aponeurotica, what am I mistaken in thinking that sometimes people say Gallia aponeurosis?
No, you're not mistaken. That's actually the term for it too.
Okay, so...
And I probably should call it the Gallia aponeuroses because it is an aponeuroses, but your book calls it aponeurotica, and I just think it sounds, I don't know.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, why? Like, are you supposed to use it? It sounds like erotica or what?
That's what I like about it. It just sounds slightly inappropriate. The Gallia aponeurotica.
We'll let you say it, pervert. No, I just wondered if there's, like, should you use one term at certain times or, like, or
yes.
they're both fine?
Yes, Monday through Thursday, it's Gallia aponeuroses, but on Friday night, it's Gallia aponeurotica.
Oh
yeah.
You're funny.
I don't know. Your book actually calls it Gallia aponeurotica. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So that is the technical term. But anyway, it's an aponeuroses. I don't know why I got that fancy name. Yeah. Anyway, cool. But it's a shower cap on your head. How's that? And does this mean that back tension could lead to headaches and all that kind of stuff? Absolutely. And by the way, I showed you from the feet up. You could easily talk about this from the head down. You could talk about this from the butt out. Like it's a choo-choo train. It doesn't really have a beginning or an end, we're going to see. That's just the back fascial line. And different people describe it slightly differently, but they will all basically agree on what we've done here today, basically. So, we've got the Gallia aponeurotica, maybe the suboccipitals, the longissimus, the thoracolumbar aponeuroses, the gluteus maximus, hamstrings, gastrocnemius, and plantaris. And I love that I see some people writing this down because I actually think it's important. Glute max. All right, so let's just do a little checking for retention here. Miss Moore. Miss Moore, what is the fascia on the bottom of your foot?
Plantar.
Yeah, plantar fascia. Cool, cool, cool. What's the calf muscle that crosses over two joints?
The Goliath tendon. Is it the Goliath tendon or the Goliath?
Gastrocnemius?
Oh. Gastrocnemius.
Cool. What are the hamstrings that cross over two joints and go up to the hip here?
Seminosis and seminosis and bicephemorus.
Yes, cool, cool, cool. What's the largest gluteal muscle?
Gluteus maximus.
You are nailing it, by the way. Thank you. What's the aponeurosis back here in the thoracic and lumbar region?
Thoracic lumbar
Aponeurosis.
aponeurosis.
Cool. What is the spinal erector that goes all the way to the mastoid process of your temporal bone, all the way to your head here?
Longissimus.
Yes! What are the 8 little muscles that are found in my occipital region back here? Just the group. I don't even know their names.
Subcapillaris.
Suboccipitals.
Oh.
Say it.
Suboccipital.
Cool. And what is the aponeurosis found on my head?
I'm good now. Wait.
Gallia?
Gallia.
Aponeurosis.
Aponeurosis.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Good job. Cool, cool, cool. So, by the way, if you are dealing with a problem that you feel affects any of those areas, it would not be unusual to go work all of those areas. Because again, all I'm trying to do is if you've got some tension here, it really could be being pulled on from both areas. I can loosen up all this and give you quite a bit of relief in that one area. Right? If that one area is tweaked over just a little bit and I give you enough relief all the way along here to get it back to there, you're fine. I can give you the 100 wins we need along that thing to give you the big win we need in that one area. I now no longer have to try to beat that area in submission. And guess what? The area of pain may not be the area of problem. Right? Because of this. They could have a problem down here. There's lots of sticking around the knee where these cross over that's causing them low back pain. That's not crazy. That's not crazy at all. You ever put on a pair of jeans that's, let's just say that, I mean, they'll fit right about 4 hours after you've had them on? Like, you know, you had to work to get them on. They look great. They look great. But there's certain things you can't do in them for a while at least, right? You can't bend over and pick up certain things. You can't. But in some ways they're kind of comfortable too because they're kind of tight around you. You get kind of used to it. But anyway, your fascia can be like that too. Except that those tight jeans are tied to a tight shirt and tied to other tight stuff, right? And strangely, when you take those tight jeans off, there's all sorts of stuff you can do better. You can actually breathe better and you can bend over better. Even kind of some of the areas that weren't exactly packed into the jeans work better. That's how fascia works, right? And that's just your clothing. You've all experienced restrictive clothing before. Imagine 37 layers of fascia running through everything in your body, spider-webbed all over the place, connecting to everything. It's the most abundant tissue you have. So that means we've been talking about muscles for 4 or 5 months now, but you've got more fascia than muscles. So we must be talking about it's like you wearing, 27 shirts and pants with the muscles woven through those. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Miss Bilotic, let's run through the back fascia line together. Let's start at the feet, Miss Bilotic. What's the fascia on the bottom of your foot called?
The plantar fascia.
Bam. What's the calf that crosses over two joints down here called?
The gastrocnemius.
Bam. What are the 3 hamstrings called?
The semitendinosus, the semimembranosus, and the rectus femoris.
Biceps femoris.
Biceps femoris. Sorry.
But good job. What's this big, rumpy muscle back here called?
The gluteus maximus.
Thank you. What's this aponeurosis found called in the thoracic lumbar region?
Lumbar.
Yeah. By the way, it means thoracic with lumbar. thoracolumbar. Thoracolumbar aponeuroses. Good. What's this really long spinal erector muscle called?
The longissimus.
Thank you. What's this group of muscles down here that's just really tiny actually, but in the occipital region called, this group?
The suboccipitals.
Cool. And what's the shower cap on my head called?
The gallioaponeuroses.
Thank you. Thank you. Gallioaponeuroses. Good job. Really good job. So guys, what's cool here is, I think, I mean, there's so many cool things here, but what's cool here is we're now mixing and matching our muscular anatomy, and we're starting to use it in different ways, right? And you'll find that each layer helps you learn it better and stuff like that. So we will, again, be still talking about packets of information. I'm still going to care about all three calf muscles and all whatever's, all the spinal erectors and what they mean and stuff like that. But then I'm going to be able to ask you, like, which one's most important? And you're going to be like, oh, the longissimus is most important because it probably really continues this fascial line on and back, right? That kind of thing. Cool, cool, cool? All right. Questions? Comments? Thoughts? I got to see a really neat demonstration of this where my massage teacher was working on this lady and lifting her leg up over her head, basically, her hamstring stretch. But he kept not just working the hamstrings, he would work all these fascial lines. So he'd work the bottom of her feet while he's talking to us. And then he'd work her calves, and he'd work her hamstrings, and he'd kind of work her glutes, and he'd go up her back, and he'd even go up her head, and then he'd move the leg further. And by the end of his speech, I am not kidding, now she was flexible already, okay? But he starts out with her leg kind of at 90 degrees. By the end of the speech, I'm not kidding you, her foot is by her face. And he just kept going back and finding stuff and working it while he's talking to us, and he's talking about this thing, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Because he's winning little battles along the way until he gets this whole line. If I want to touch my toes and all my clothes are sewn together, I've got to lengthen all my clothes or tear one item, and I can't afford to tear one item. Yes, Mr. Tate.
So I got interrupted, and I missed the last two. I caught that the Galileo at the
Gallioaponeuratus is neurotica.
Apparatus is the head, right?
Yes.
The
suboccipitals are some muscles underneath. Well, in the back, right here. They're right here, sir.
Okay, muscles in the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And you're gonna have to wait 4 months for the rest, sir. Good day. I'm kidding.
Okay.
Anyway, cool. Let's do some homework so that you guys can have a nice relaxing weekend. And maybe knit me something. Let's see. Okay. You have, oh jeez. Pretty, no, that's not gonna help. Let's see. Okay, you have 2 pieces of homework only. Test on the peroneals and tibialis anterior, and the matching from chapter 17 in your massage therapy book on business. We will talk a little bit about massage business, since some of you probably want to get paid.